Hello and welcome to the instructional video for the MarinMap zoning lookup application. In today's video, I'm going to walk through some of the usability of this application and show how to use some of the tools and widgets that are available within the application to analyze and look at zoning information within Marin County. So when you enter the application, you will be greeted with this zoning lookup how-to menu. This menu is a splash screen that is used to tell the end user how to use the application. There's some basic information that is explained in the how-to menu here in terms of how to use the application, search within the application, and then some of the tools available within the application. I'll go ahead and exit out of that and get into the application. To begin, I'm going to walk through some of the general map tools that are available out of the box in this application. And then I will work my way through the search bar and how to use that, and then work my way through these tools up here in the header menu. So for the out-of-the-box tools that are available by default with the application, we've got the zoom in and zoom out buttons here at the very top left of the map. So the zoom in is this plus button. If I hit that, it will zoom in on the map. And if I hit the zoom out minus button, that will zoom me back out. Now, you can also achieve this by using your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, but those buttons are there in case you need to use them. Then below the zoom in and zoom out buttons, we've got the default map view button. And when I click this, it will zoom me back out to the default map extent that the application was set at when it loaded. So if you're zoomed in to a specific area and doing some analysis on the map and then want to get back out to this main view, just go ahead and click this home icon, the default map view button. Lastly, we've got the Find My Location button below that. Now I won't hit this right now. I won't click this button because this is more designed for use on mobile devices. So if you are accessing this application via any mobile device and you want to go to your live location that you're currently standing at within Marin County, you can tap that Find My Location button on the mobile version of this application, and the map will zoom directly to your live location and show you as a blue dot on the map. So that can be pretty helpful if you want to do some analysis for a specific area that you are actually currently standing in within the county. Moving on, I will focus on the search bar next, and this is kind of the nerve center for the application. Now, one thing to note about this search bar is that this application will be accessible from the MarinMap website, and within that website there will be a page for the zoning lookup where you will be prompted to search for either an address or a property ID. So that'll be a different interface within the MarinMap website, and you'll enter in that address or property ID in that prompt, and that whatever you entered in that prompt will be carried over into the application, and you can click on a link within that prompt menu and it will zoom you directly to your address or property ID that you searched on that prompt on the MarinMap website. So you won't have to always use this search bar, but once you're in the application, after you've used that prompt search on the MarinMap website, you can utilize this search bar to run a separate search once you're already in the application. So I'll just go through how that works. I'm going to click this down arrow on the search bar, and you can see it is defaulted to all. So when this all button is checked, it means both of these searches are enabled. So I can search either by address or property ID of the tax parcel I'm looking to search for. If I want to deselect one of those, I can. So if I want to only search by property ID, I can deselect address, or vice versa. I can deselect property ID and only search by address. I'll go ahead and click in the menu to search. As you can see, I've got some example searches that I've already run. Those are my recent searches, and those will be carried over between sessions of the application being opened. So if I have a property ID that I want to search for, I can go ahead and enter that in. I'll just click on this one here because I've already looked for it. So I'll click on that and then I'll click enter, and that will zoom me directly to that tax parcel that I've searched for. And my example was with the property ID, but you can do the same exact workflow for an address. So if I search for 41 Martling Road, it would bring me the same way to this tax parcel and then highlight it on the map and enable the pop-up. So once you've run your search, like you can see on the map here, it will zoom you to that location and then enable the pop-up for your searched tax parcel. So by default, that pop-up opens at the center of the application here, and you can use your mouse wheel to scroll down and look at what that pop-up has for information. There's quite a bit of information. The zoning land use information is right at the very top with the parcel ID and address and jurisdiction information, but there is some secondary information that is tied to other things such as supervisorial district, census tract, and a lot of other different zones that that parcel might lie within, and just a lot of information about that area on the map. One nice function available within the pop-ups menu is that we can dock the pop-ups. So I'll go ahead and click this dock button here at the very top of the pop-up. And you can see that that has docked my pop-up on the top right-hand side of the application. And that's opened up the middle of my map to view the full extent of the boundary of that tax parcel that I've got selected. And when you dock, you can see a little bit more of the information included within that tax parcel's pop-up information. So it's a nice way to open up the map and see a little bit more of what's available in the pop-up. Another thing we can do with the pop-up is collapse it. So if I click that collapse button, it will bring everything up to the top while still keeping the pop-up open. And then I can expand that information just by clicking that same button. And if I'm done viewing the pop-up in the docked fashion, I can click the undock button, and that will bring me back to the initial view that loaded when I ran my search and opened up the pop-up. And to exit a pop-up, I'll just choose close. And then one thing too to note about the pop-ups is that pop-ups are enabled on several of the map layers shown on the application. So if you see something on the map and you want to know what it is, there's a good chance that there's a pop-up enabled, so you can just click the map. And you can see we've got the tax parcel pop-up, but there are these arrows here at the bottom of the pop-up. So if I want to see the underlying zoning polygon that lies within that tax parcel, I can choose that and view that zoning information and then see the extent of that zoning polygon as well that I've selected on the map. So if you've got a question about what something is on the map, when in doubt, just click it, and if a pop-up is enabled on that feature, the pop-up will show up. I will close out of the pop-up now. And now I will focus on the tools available to us in the header menu. And I'm just going to start at the far left of those with the Map Legend tool, which I'm going to click here. And what the Map Legend shows is just a representation of what the symbology looks like for all active layers on the map. So if a layer is turned on the map, it's going to show what that layer's symbology denotes in the Map Legend here. And there's several zoning layers turned on by default, so I'm just scrolling down the Map Legend here, and this will give you an idea of what all of these colors of the zoning polygons mean for each municipality that they're shown in. So again, it's just going to show us a representation of all of the active turned on map layers that are live on the map. I will close out of that. And next, I will walk through the Map Layers tool. I'll click that icon to activate the Map Layers tool. And here we can see these are the map layers that are available to us to turn on the map. So we've got several grouped layers here and then some standalone layers as well. You can tell a layer is a grouped layer when there is this expand arrow next to it. So I'll expand the transportation layer here, and you can see that there are sub layers within that transportation group. So it's always a good idea, if you see the arrow next to a layer, just click that and then you might find whatever layer you're looking for within that group. And I'll use some of these transportation layers as an example to turn them on. I'll just click the check mark and you can see there's the road labels that came on. We can turn on the actual road layer by selecting road, and then if there's any trails in the area, which it doesn't look like there are in this map area, they would be showing because I've got them turned on. So when the group layer is turned on and checked on, you can control what is shown within that group by selecting those standalone check marks next to the layer name, or we can go ahead and turn that entire group off just by selecting that check mark next to the group. So if I turn transportation back on, you'll see those road labels and roads will reappear. And one thing that we can also do within the Map Layers tool is go to this Options 3-dot menu next to the layers. And you can either zoom to that layer, that will zoom to the entirety of that layer, or you can hide labels. So if labels are enabled on a layer, you can show and hide labels. And you can also update the transparency of that layer. So when there are several map layers turned on, the map can get very busy, and the transparency option here within the map layers menu can really help kind of tone down what's shown on the map. And those are an overlying layer there, so I'll just do it on the route transportation layer here, and that should show those roads kind of getting to be a lot more see-through as I move this slider menu. Now you can see that line on the roads is no longer showing when I get to 100% transparency, and as I get closer to 0, they're showing again here on the map. So that transparency can be really helpful when you've got a lot of layers turned on and you want to kind of make things a little bit easier on your eyes. Lastly, I'd like to show one feature of the Map Layers tool, which is the search. So if I have a specific layer that I know is in one of these groups and I want to just search for that, let's say I'm looking for parcels. I can just search the keyword of parcel, and that search is going to return any map layers that include the text parcel. So I found all of the layers that include parcel with my search here, and then I can turn them on and off and do any of those option analysis tools there with those as well. And if I want to remove that search, I just simply clear that search and it will return me to that default view of the Map Layers tool. So I will exit out of that and go to the next tool, which is the Basemap Gallery tool. So I'll click into that. And the Basemap Gallery tool is used to control the underlying basemap on the application. So right now you can see behind this zoning and addressing information, there's kind of a gray and white background. That's the default light gray canvas basemap. But let's say I want to update that basemap to include this imagery hybrid, which is aerial imagery and some other labeling. I can click that, and now you can see we've got all that aerial imagery as our base map. So we can see the houses, the pools, everything that you might want to see on a specific parcel. And within the Basemap gallery, we've got several options here, as you can see as I scroll down. So it can be kind of a helpful tool if you want a different way of viewing and analyzing the data that's shown on the map. just by controlling that underlying base map. Now again, that light gray canvas base map is the default, so I'm going to turn it back to that for our instructional video purposes. And moving on, the next tool I'd like to talk about is the measurement tool. So I will click the measurement icon to open up the tool. And within this measurement tool, we've got the ability to measure distances or measure areas. So I'll start by measuring a distance. To begin measuring a distance, I'll just select this distance icon at the very top left of the measurement tool, and it will inform me to start a measurement. I need to click the map and place my first point. For my example, I'll just measure the backside of this 47 Martling Way tax parcel. And as you can see, snapping is turned on with the measurement tool, so I can snap to underlying layers on the map, which can be really helpful if I'm trying to measure something like a defined boundary, like this parcel segment. So to begin, I'll just click on that vertex that was highlighted, and then I'll kind of hover over that back end of that parcel line. And once I've found that vertex for the north corner of that 47 Martling Road tax parcel, I'll double click to finish my measurement. So once I've double clicked, my measurement is complete. As you can see, my measurement is just a little bit over 157 feet. The map unit will default to imperial, which just means that at a smaller distance, the measurement is going to default to a feet measurement unit. And when I get to a larger measurement, which is I believe over 1,000 feet, it will then change to a miles measurement unit. But if I want to change that by default, I can select this unit drop-down list. And if I want to view that measurement in, we'll say yards, I can click yards, and that measurement updates on the map as well as within the tool. So it went from feet to yards, and we can see the difference there. To begin a new measurement and stay in my distance measurement tool, I would select new measurement, and then I could create a new measurement. Or I can go ahead and clear my measurement just by clicking clear measurement, and that's going to exit me out of that measure tool. As you can see, I'm not being prompted to measure on the map now, but I would click new measurement if I wanted to start a new one. So now I will go through the measure area option. And this tool, part of the tool, works just the same as the distance measurement. I just find a spot on the map where I want to start, and I can click, and then I can choose vertices of those underlying polygons to create my area measurement. I'll measure the area of these two parcels here, and I'll just drop a point wherever I want my area measurement to continue to measure. And once I've found my last spot I want to drop a point, I will double click to finish that area measurement. And you can see that area measurement has already shown. It is an area of just over 47,000 square feet. Again, that measurement unit's going to default to imperial, which I believe changes to square miles once you get over 100,000 square feet of measurement. A nice addition to the area measurement is that it will also give me the perimeter of my area measurement, which looks to be just under 1,000 feet for the perimeter of this entire area. And then again, I can update the measurement unit just by selecting that unit drop down. And if I want to see how many acres these two parcels are, I can change that to acres, and it looks like they're just over an acre. Again, if I wanted to continue measuring areas, I could just click new measurement or click clear measurement to exit out of the tool. And I will exit out of the measurement tool now. Next, I would like to discuss the Bookmarks tool. So I'll click into that bookmark icon to open that up. And what the bookmark tool is a set of predetermined bookmarks on the map for different areas of concern or cities or communities or points of interest that you can select these buttons within the bookmark menu to zoom directly to that community, city, area of concern, whatever it might be. So we've got a home bookmark, which will zoom us back out, much like that default map view button here. It will zoom us out to our home view. If I wanted to pop over to Belvedere quickly, I can do that by selecting Belvedere, or if I wanted to go over to Novato, I could do that by selecting the Novato option. So very basic, but a really quick way to maneuver the map if you know where you're wanting to go and not having to zoom into that location manually. And if it's in this bookmarks list, you can select it and go right to that location. So I'll exit out of the bookmark tool, and next I'm going to talk about the print tool. And I'll zoom in for a better example of this tool. Let the map load here. To open up the print tool, I'll just select this print icon here. And it's going to show us a few things by default, and then I'll work my way down the tool into this advanced menu to set a few advanced settings within the tool. The first thing you'll see in the print template are the size and layout options. It's going to default to a paper size and layout of A3 landscape. So the A3 is the paper size, and the landscape is the layout of how that print is going to be exported. You can see we've got options for all different paper sizes, and then we've got options for landscape and portrait for those layouts. And then at the very bottom, we do have an option for map only. Map only will disregard several of the advanced settings that I'll walk through shortly. It would give us pretty much just a screen grab of our current location on the map. But for the video's purpose, I will keep the template to the default A3 landscape. And for the title, I'll change this to Demo Test. And next, below that title, I'm going to expand the advanced menu. And within the advanced menu, we've got some different options for map printing extents. We've got current map extent, current map scale, and set map scale. We'll just keep this at current map extent because that'll give us a printout of my current map extent here, which is what I want. Then we've got a spot to add an author. For this, I'll just write Demo Test again. And then we've got copyright, which this is a spot that you can add any disclaimers or just any general text that you want added to the printout. And that copyright text will show up at the bottom right-hand side of our printout. So I'll just write this is a test. We'll choose the check mark for include legend and include north arrow. We'll update our scale bar units to feet since this is a little bit smaller area. We will keep the print quality at the default. If you wanted that to be better, you can increase that number on the DPI. And then we will also include attributes. And to print, I'm going to go ahead and select print at the bottom here. And once I've selected that, you'll see this results tab at the top right will have a spinning wheel next to it. And that's where our printout is going to resolve and then be selectable. And this demo test print will, once it becomes selectable, it will open up in a new tab within my browser, and we can access it from there. So it looks like my print has resolved. I will click into that, and that will open up my print. You can see our title is showing up at the very top. We've got our legend here, our scale bar and north arrow. And then at the bottom right-hand side, we've got our author, which is demo test, and then our copyright information, which is where I added the this is a test text. So that's where that copyright disclaimer or general map text that explains your print would show up is at the bottom right-hand side here. And to save this into a different format, you can just right-click and select Save Image As, and then save that to a local file location where you could save it as a PNG or a TIFF or a PDF or whatever file format you'd like to save it in. And to leave that print, I'll just close that tab. And one thing to mention with the results here is if you have several map printouts in your current session of the zoning lookup application, they will show in the results. So there'll be a whole list of them if you have multiple printouts in your session. But as soon as you exit out of your session of the zoning lookup application, those results will no longer show up. So if I leave this application, close out for the day, and come back tomorrow, my results will no longer be there for the print menu. So if you need to save those out, utilize that Save Image As workflow that I mentioned in the Print tab. Next, I'd like to talk about the Share tool. To enter the Share tool, I'll select this Share icon, and we'll be defaulted to sharing a short link here, which is just a really small URL basically that we can share this application with. You can select this copy button to copy that directly into your machine's clipboard, or you can deselect short link if you want the full application link where you can see what's going on with that URL, and you can utilize that same copy button to copy that and send that to whoever you might want to. We've also got the ability to embed this application if you want to embed it into, let's say, a chat of some variety or a direct embed into another format and share it that way. You've got that option. You can also create a QR code if you're doing any sort of documentation and you need a quick way to access this application via someone's mobile device. They can scan that QR code and get right into the application. Or you can share it directly via email. This button will open up your machine's default email provider and start up a blank email and have the link to the application in the body of that email. So pretty slick there. And then you can share this application directly into any socials via Facebook, X, Pinterest, or LinkedIn. I'll exit out of the share button. Next, I would like to discuss the meta table. So I'll click that table icon at the top right to get into the download table. And what we're viewing here is basically just an attribute table for every single layer that is available within this application. To view specific layers, you can select this drop-down menu. It's going to show the tax parcels layer first because that is the most commonly accessed layer, and then the rest of the layers are visible in this drop-down menu if you'd like to look into another layer that's shown on the map. There is some neat functionality within the download table here, so I can go ahead and just select a row if I would like, and that will select that actual tax parcel. And I'll exit out of the tax parcel or the table view here, and you can see that's selected that tax parcel that I've selected within the attribute table and brought me to it on the map. I'll go back into the table here, and my tax parcel is still selected here. I can also show only my selection, so if I want to see only the record that I've got selected here, I can choose this Show Selected button, and that's going to show me just the selection and remove all other tax parcel records from my table. To get back to that initial view, I can hit that same button, which will be Show All, and now you can see all other tax parcels are visible again. I can also clear my selection utilizing that Clear Selection button, and that has cleared my selection, and then on the map behind me it's also gone back out to the default map extent. It's not zoomed to that selected record any longer. I've also got a refresh These columns are sortable just by a double click. They'll search things alphabetically, and my refresh will just refresh the table to the original view. I can also select the Show Hide Columns button, and what this controls is the visible rows within the table. So if I want to view select specific few columns or data fields in my attribute table, I can deselect all columns, and then I can reselect what I want to see for columns. So if I want to view just property IDs, zip codes, and use descriptions, I can deselect all of them utilizing this clear selection button, and then I can select which columns I want to see in the data. I can also use this show selection to show only the columns here that I want to have visible on my download table, or I can go back to that full list of them. And I can also search for different fields. So if I want to turn on a specific field, let's just say jurisdiction, I can search for that and then select that and turn jurisdiction on as well. So it gives you a little bit more control of what you're able to see here in the attribute table. And if there are fields that you don't want to see on it, you can just deselect those with that Show Hide Columns button. Next, I'll walk through the map actions. With the map actions, I can set a filter on the data, and this is a very powerful tool. Basically, what this tool touches is every single data field that is carried within that layer that we're viewing the table for. And you can add a clause, and you can select any data field that's carried in that data. And so let's say we want to filter out all parcels where the use code is equivalent to 10. We can do that. So I've set my filter here, and all I need to do is toggle this switch to on, and that's going to show me all tax parcels where the use code is equal to 10. And as you can see from the drop-down menu, you can do that on any field that's carried in the data, and you can access unique values or enter in your own. Unique values will show you options for every filled in set of data. So if it's filled in the use code field, it will show me all possible options. Or I can update this to enter in my own text and see if there's something available that I'm not aware of in the unique drop down there. So it gives you a lot of freedom to filter out that data that you're viewing in the table. Then to delete that clause, you can just click that delete button. Another thing is that you can build onto your clauses. If I click this add button and select clause set, I can then filter on two different data fields, and I can set that to be an and or. So if it's and, it would be filtering on both of these clauses. If it's set to or, it would be filtering on either one. So either one would have to be true for the filter to take place. And I will just deselect that filter to unfilter all my data and close out of the filter option there. And lastly, within the download table, we have the ability to export this data that we're looking at. So I can go to export and utilize export to CSV to export this data to a spreadsheet format. And one thing to note with the spreadsheet export is that if you've got a filter set on the data you're viewing, that filter will come across with the export to spreadsheet. So pretty powerful if you want to export filtered data, but one thing to be aware of if you want to export the entirety of the data set that you're looking at. Just make sure there's no filter set on it. To exit the download table, I'll use this X button up here at the top right hand side. And the final tool I want to show is the help menu here, available at the very top right hand side of the application. And this help menu might look familiar. This is the same menu that we were welcomed to the application with that splash screen. And this is just some general how-to documentation and helpful hints and tips to maneuver the application. So if you get stuck on something, you can rely on this help menu to help walk you through what you might need to do to complete what you're looking to do with the application. And then at the bottom of the how-to menu, we do have a link back out to the download table tool, and we can exit that just by exiting with the X button there. With that, that's all I had for my instructional demo here for the zoning lookup application. I hope you found this video helpful and hope you enjoy utilizing the zoning lookup application for MarinMap. Thank you very much.